Welcome to Design with Impact, the podcast for interior designers who want to create beautiful, healthy spaces with intention and purpose. I'm Alex, interior designer, mom, entrepreneur, and educator, and I am truly passionate about sustainability. After seeing the amount of waste our industry creates and learning how everyday materials can impact our health, I completely changed the way I approach design. And now I want to help more designers do the same. Each week, through solo episodes and conversations with industry experts, we'll explore sustainable materials, healthier homes, and circular design, along with practical strategies to reduce waste, grow a sustainable business, and market your work with intention, so you can create real impact without sacrificing aesthetics or profitability. Because sustainability isn't optional, it's the future of design. Welcome to Design with Impact. I'm your host, Alex Shield, and today we're going to be speaking with Patty Grossman. Patty is the co-founder and CEO of Two Sisters EcoTextiles. Founded in 2006 when they were unable to find fabrics that were healthy and met all of their criteria, the two sisters, Patty and Leanne, made it their mission to create fabrics that were healthy for the end user and safe for the planet. They produced the first collection of GOTS certified interiors fabrics in the world. Over the years, Two Sisters EcoTextiles has received several accolades, from the House and Garden Award for Best Merchandise to being dubbed Eco-Heroes by London Sunday Telegraph, and the fabrics being chosen as one of the top 10 green products of 2008 by the Oracle of the Green Building Industry, Environmental Building News, and Build Green. Welcome, Patty, to the podcast.
So happy to be here.
I'm so excited to speak with you today. You have so much knowledge on sustainable textiles. Let's just start with maybe an introduction. So can you tell us a bit about you and why you got into the healthy textile business?
It was really due to my sister. My sister is the one with taste. And she was actually, she inherited an old sofa from her mother-in-law. And she was looking to recover it. And her kids, who were at the time in middle school, we're talking over 20 years ago now, they suggested that she try to find something environmentally friendly. So, and this was before Al Gore, this was before anybody was talking green. So she looked and just couldn't find anything. She found some really ugly things, or she just couldn't find anything. And then she started looking into the issues with fabric production. She was so shocked that she called me, because I'm the business person, and she thought there was a real business opportunity there. So we got pretty excited about it.
And so what would you say, why are textiles such an important part of creating a healthy interior? And what is an eco-friendly textile?
Well, a true eco-friendly textile to me is one that contains no residual chemicals of concern, and whose production, and ideally, I mean, that's the most important thing for the use of fabric, but ideally, the fabric also has been produced so that it doesn't cause water and chemical and energy pollution.
So I'm just going to stop you for a second. What is a residual chemical in a textile?
Oh, sorry. Just chemicals that remain in the fabric.
So in the textile production, there's a lot of chemical use, there's a lot of water use, and the chemicals don't fully go away.
They do not go away. In fact, this is pretty stunning, but it's from the equivalent of the German Environmental Protection Agency. Some, I don't know, 25, 30 years ago, they studied fabric and found that any particular fabric is about 75% the fiber and 25% chemicals by weight. That's by weight. It's really stunning. Most people know that dyes are chemicals and are problematical, but there are a very long list of chemicals that are used routinely in fabric production to produce, the fabric that we want, um, and to produce fabric that behaves.
Mm.
um, and the chemicals are introduced usually in water. So water is used at each step of production to introduce the chemicals, and then they're washed out to prepare for the next step. And we're talking about a lot of steps. It's not just dyeing. There's warping and slashing and bleaching and, a whole list of many steps.
Mm.
So there's actually, the fabric industry is the number one industrial polluter of water in the world.
Wow.
Excluding agriculture. Now, there are some studies that say that metal plating is number one. Some say that. But anyway, it's a biggie.
Mm.
We're talking lots.
So
fabric is everywhere.
it is. It is everywhere. We wear it, we sleep on it, we sit on it. So what types of toxic chemicals then are found in the traditional textiles that we use in our home, and why does this matter? What harm could this do to us?
People in the U.S. tend to know that VOCs are an issue. The chemical class VOCs, and that's volatile organic chemicals. It just means a chemical that turns into a gas at room temperature. And the EPA, for some reason, the American EPA has focused on indoor air quality, and they focused on VOCs. So people will sometimes know that VOCs are an issue. But VOCs are only one of 12 classes of chemicals that are regulated by the two certifications we think are indispensable, and as well as a whole list of many hundreds of individual chemicals. So there's a whole bunch of chemicals now that are prohibited or limited mostly by the European Union. Thank goodness for the European Union. About 27 years ago now, they introduced REACH legislation, which required full toxicity studies for every chemical used in fabrication within the European Union. Well, originally it was 50 tons per year, then it became 100 tons. Because of REACH legislation in the European Union, there are 200 chemicals that are prohibited. And in the U.S., there used to be 9. Now I think it's down to 5. It's surprising, even asbestos, it was legal to use until a few years ago. Then it became illegal, and I think it's legal again. Anyway, the U.S. is very pro-chemical, and the European Union is pro-non-toxic chemicals. Now, the reason I think people understand indoor air quality, but there are other routes of transmission. Skin is the largest organ in the body, but also the big one is when you touch fabric, sit on it, we abrade tiny particles which we ingest or inhale, or our pets ingest or inhale, or kids. And so there's a constant, there's lots of routes of transmission. It's not just VOCs. And textiles are full of lots of chemicals you don't want to be ingesting or breathing in.
No, for sure. And so you're saying if something is 100% cotton, if something says on the label 100% cotton, it's really 75% cotton, 25% chemical, and then it could contain all of these potentially harmful chemicals.
Yes, especially if it does not hold a certification. The two reliable certifications are the Global Organic Textile Standard and OEKO-TEX 100, or OEKO-TEX Made in Green now. Many of the other certifications are, we find, really not thorough, not comprehensive, not as reliable. Companies do a really good job of just baffling people. Like, I have to write something about certifications, certifying bodies, and products, because companies will just throw lots of emblems on their website and claim to be green. And boy, it looks reliable, but they're throwing up the logos of a certifying body, the group that produces a certification. Sometimes it's just a business association, which is called a first party certification, and those aren't terribly reliable. So it's a job to learn and kind of get through the debris out there.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I definitely agree. So then what about, we know that there's natural fibers and there's synthetic fibers. If you could just run through sort of can you list out some natural versus synthetic fibers in case there's somebody listening who doesn't know the difference? And then are there more chemicals or water use in one versus the other?
Well, this is becoming extremely important, especially for people who are interested in, keeping not only humans healthy, but animal populations.
Mm.
So there are three major types of fibers that we use in fabric. There's natural, and then there's two human-made kinds. There's synthetic and then cellulosic.
Mm.
So what are these three? Well, natural fibers are fibers that come from plants or animals: cotton, alpaca, linen, flax linen, hemp, wool. And then those are the major ones. But the most used fibers are human made from petroleum. And those synthetics are polyester, polyurethane, polyethylene, nylon, uh, acrylic. Those are the
So
most
the
popular.
synthetic fabrics are essentially plastic.
They're plastic.
They are.
Absolutely.
Okay. So they
They're
don't breathe. They're not, they're not nice fabrics to use anyway.
And, there are some applications where, like, my husband and I argue about this all the time because he's a big outdoor person and he will use synthetic fibers because, right now they're the best for certain applications in the outdoors. And that's fine, but we really, really need to minimize our use of plastic. It's very important. It's not just single-use plastics that are an issue. So the third kind of fiber that we use it's really becoming extremely important. It's human-made, but it's human-made from cellulose. That's the rayon process, also called viscose process. And the process is very chemical intensive and very water intensive. And you have to make sure that just to say what it is, it's human made, but from cellulose. So, plants.
Like wood pulp? I think is one of them.
Wood pulp is a big one. Bamboo is a big one. If you're using rayon or viscose, you have to make sure that the stock you're drawing from is not creating problems.
Okay.
Like bamboo needs to be not from panda habitat, and uh, you uh, you don't want to create problems trying to solve a problem. But the reason rayon and viscose are becoming important is because it's really important that we minimize the use of plastic, but there's not enough natural fiber in the world to meet the need, not even close. So the answer really is human-made from plants, but human-made from plants that has water treatment in place, toxicity issues in place, and that addresses all the pollution points that attend, the production of the cellulose,
Okay.
the fiber. And actually, my first production manager, uh, our first production manager went on. We're only 2 people right now. I don't want to give people the impression we're a huge company, but we did have a production manager at one point. And he went on and he founded Circular Systems. They create fiber and yarn and fabric from agricultural waste. So we're starting to use his viscose. That's a viscose process.
Okay.
And, you'll hear a lot about, we're creating, uh, uh, fabric from grape seeds or fabric from this source or that source. And people get a lot of attention. It's all still the basic rayon process or a cousin to it. Um, anyway, the viscose from agricultural waste is really great because you can solve a lot of problems. For instance, right now, rice bran, for instance, is just burned in the fields. Well, burning that creates a lot of pollution and health impacts for families. But now they can sell the rice bran instead of creating pollution, and that gives them another source of income.
So then if we're talking about so if we're talking about upholstery, let's say, we're looking at upholstery, drapery, um what would you say the biggest misconception that designers have about using natural fabrics?
Uh, Probably that they cannot perform well,
Hmm.
and uh, it absolute it absolutely is true that there are certain things you have to know about natural fibers. Natural fibers, uh, Americans want their fabric to behave, and it's got to be wrinkle free and stain proof and um,
All the
just
things.
a million things
Yeah.
and never fade. Well, all of the performance attributes except fading have a truly non-toxic solution, like
Okay.
stain resistance. Now, it's not the most durable. After about 10 to 12 washings, you have to reapply it. But there's now an OEKO-TEX 100 certified spray-on stain repellent,
Mm.
which works really well. And it it is made from a completely benign chemical, silicon dioxide, not silica. It doesn't take the silica form. Uh, but the issue with that is that they nanoize it, meaning they turn the molecule into tiny versions of itself, and the tiny versions perform differently. And uh, actually, my sister and I just went bananas about 10 years ago when the Hohenstein Institute, which is the technical arm of OEKO-TEX, gave their 100 certification, meaning it's perfectly safe to bring into a home with infants, to this German patent. Because at the time, we were not convinced that the body was capable of expelling these nanoparticles. Well, about 2 years ago, a couple of studies were released on this product, and I'm convinced now. I have a master's in, well, it's not statistics, but it's close. It's really numbers intensive. I've read the studies, and I'm convinced that it's totally fine to use. So we recommend it, because the number one issue with fabric and with people tossing fabric and upholstered pieces is staining. So that's important. Now, there are issues with natural fibers, though. They breathe. They really breathe. So we recommend when people send fabric to their workshop or they get it in their home, especially linen and hemp, they let it acclimate to the humidity in your environment for at least 8 days before you cut it, because it will expand and contract, and sometimes really noticeably so. And plastic doesn't do that. Linen also will wrinkle, although linen in upholstery tends not to wrinkle as long as the upholstery is tacked on 4 sides.
Okay.
Linen skirts don't do well if you don't like the shabby chic look. Don't do linen skirts.
I feel like linen is a specific look. Like, you have to like the look of linen.
Uh-huh.
I have linen curtains, and yeah, they're wrinkled, and that's just the way they are. But I love them. My duvet cover is linen as well, so same thing. But that's, at first I was trying to iron it all the time, and then I realized, oh no, this is just linen. So I think for interior designers too, it's important to explain these things. It's important to know your fabrics and explain these things to your clients as well, right? And you need to like the look of linen.
Yeah, I used to hate the look of linen clothes because they were mostly pretty wrinkly, and Leanne really loved it. And I don't know, I've just really learned. I It's not that I learned to love it. I guess I learned all the great things about linen, so it just assumed. I just started liking it unconsciously.
For sure. And then in terms of the natural versus the synthetic fabrics, is there, in terms of water use and chemical use, is it?
Oh, right.
Is it the same? Is it?
Yeah.
I know there are the certifications too for organic, but
In terms of water use, Leanne was our big researcher, and she entered memory care a few years ago. So if I talk in the past tense about her work, it's because she stopped working 4 years ago.
So just for those listening, so Leanne is your sister. She is the
Yeah.
She is the first or second sister in the Two Sisters EcoTextiles.
Right. Now it's Sandra, the third sister, who's not a biological sister. But so Leanne looked into the water use of various fibers, and she claims that it's the same water use.
Okay.
It doesn't really make sense to me, because linen and hemp absorb 3 to 4 times their weight in water when you're washing them, and plastic does not. But anyway, I don't think there's much difference in the water use, and that gets normalized anyway. If you have water treatment at every step, you can use more water with no adverse effects, or fewer adverse effects. But chemical use, people think of performance fabrics. When you say performance fabrics, it almost always means 100% or a large percentage of plastic. Most of those attributes are from chemicals used. not all of them, like in fading, there's really no good way to prevent fading. There's no non-toxic way to prevent fading right now. And actually, the chemical used in plastic fabrics and polyester to prevent fading is the chemical responsible for coral bleaching. So we really want to avoid that. But polyester, actually, one of the things about polyester is polyester will resist fading better than any other fiber. I mean, certain of the plastic fibers do have really great performance attributes. It's just that we don't want to, you know, kill the earth while we're improving those. Because
But also
actually,
in terms of the chemicals that they add to the to a lot of the synthetic fabrics, there's the PFAS chemical. Well, and maybe this is more the performance chemicals. I don't know, but there's the PFAS chemicals, there's flame retardants, there's phthalates as well, and these are all harmful for our health. So I mean,
extremely harmful for
yeah.
health. Phthalates have been banned in the European Union since 2005, banned in manufacture since 2005. That was pretty early, even for the European Union. In California, they're banned in certain children's toys, but they're in 98% of printing inks, textile printing inks. So parents who even know about this issue and are assiduous about, keeping soft plastic toys away from their kids are unknowingly putting them in clothes and putting them on sheets wrapped in blankets that are full of phthalates. And phthalates are very nasty. They're suspected carcinogens, but mostly they're endocrine disruptors, meaning your body's very minutely tuned endocrine hormonal system can be disrupted by them. And they're potent in incredibly tiny concentrations, like 1,000,000,000 to 1. So, phthalates are just very nasty. Now, what phthalates do is they make plastic soft. So, whenever I go to a hospital, I've been to hospitals a lot recently because I'm getting older. I just cringe when I see all the plastic tubing, and I think of the statistics that my sister would just focus on when she was giving talks, like breast cancer. There's a connection between phthalates and breast cancer. Well, I think it's kind of obvious. The studies are very strong, and in the 50s, the 40s and 50s, before phthalates were common, breast cancer was a, a rare diagnosis in people. And then it became, let's see, I think in the 60s, 1 in 11 women could expect to be diagnosed in their lifetime, and now it's 1 in 8. And, it's, I'm sure, not just due to phthalates, but we're using ourselves as guinea pigs, just immersed in a chemical soup that Europe is trying to clean up, but we're not doing a very good job of cleaning it up in the US. But, your textile choices, you can help clean it up just through your textile choices.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it's a big part of interiors, right? You're sitting on your couches, you're lying in your bed. Textiles are everywhere. Your curtains, it's your rugs as well.
yep,
And I
yep.
think that we as designers just don't know. Like, you I don't know, you don't go online and search, through couches and, oh, here's a healthy couch versus an unhealthy couch. Those options aren't available, you know? So I think we just need to be better informed. So, you know, we're talking about natural versus synthetic. We're talking about chemicals and water use. What about recycled polyester?
Oh, yeah. Oh, right now, recycling is the recapitulation of extremely toxic events. So I hate to say this, but I mean, I recycle just because, you know, cardboard you can safely recycle. Um, uh, there's a few things you can safely recycle. A lot of things, it's just not a good idea to recycle them right now because, for instance, polyester, recycled polyester, it completely drives me crazy when companies claim green attributes, claim to be a green company, and then you see that their green product is recycled plastic. Well, there's two ways of recycling plastic right now. Uh, uh, one is mechanical, well, they're mechanical and chemical. And mechanical is when you mechanically reduce the source material like bottles and things like that by scraping it, turning it into little pieces, and then reconstructing something. And mostly with plastic right now, the only thing you can reconstruct is like, you know, bumps in roadways, things like that. It's downcycling. And chemical recycling, they take the polymer and they turn it back into its monomers and then reconstruct it. But they also have to bleach it, they have to use more dyes, they have to use more energy. Not quite as much energy as using new plastic stock, but the toxicity issues and the chemical issues, they have to use more chemicals. It's the status is just not very good. I'm going to a conference, Oregon State University and University of Washington. I'm in Seattle. They're kind of leaders in the field of looking at plastic, the safety of plastic, and in different environments. Because it's really a fascinating area. The industry's position, the industry meaning the plastic industry, the chemical industry, they would say, yeah, we know that acrylic workers, get cancer at a much higher rate, and we recognize that the production of the polymers from these incredibly toxic monomers is kind of an environmental disaster. But once the end product is produced, it's inert and it's safe to use.
Okay.
Well, that's turning out not to be true.
Oh.
And we've for a long time that it's not true of vinyl. Polyvinyl chloride is one of the most toxic things produced by humans. But it's so don't live with vinyl. Don't have vinyl in your house. It's also looking to be not true of acrylic. And recent work at University of Washington is strongly indicating that any plastic that's in the marine environment becomes incredibly toxic to the marine environment. So even polyester and polyurethane are the least toxic of the plastics in terms of, well, I guess just looking at every aspect of them. If you look at the old Greenpeace plastics pyramid, polyester and polyethylene were down near the bottom, but there's still it's really it's a good idea to navigate away from using plastic if we want to keep the marine environment safe.
If you have been enjoying these conversations, I would love for you to grab the Sustainable Design Starter Kit. This kit will help you to quickly and confidently implement sustainability in your business through a materials cheat sheet, checklists, and client-ready scripts. This kit will help you design more sustainably without the overwhelm. You can find the link in the show notes. So, I find it very difficult to find natural textiles for anything really in interior design. If you're looking at upholstery fabric, drapery fabric, all of the companies you order their sample books, it's all polyester. All of it is polyester. And then they'll have some recycled polyester because, they're trying to be green. But I have a very hard time. So essentially I source from you guys. But I don't know. I don't know how to make this more mainstream, but hopefully people are listening and realizing sort of the importance of this. So we talked about chemicals, we talked about water use a little bit. What about the carbon footprint? So in terms of, are there fibers that have a higher carbon footprint? Is it better to have locally produced fabric?
Yeah, each one of these your questions are so good, and each one of them is really a book. So
I know.
Forgive me if I'm not being
you have a lot of knowledge to share.
Well, forgive me if I'm not being the greatest at summarizing. But I do want to get people interested in these issues because they're so profound. So carbon footprint, that's a really great one. When we first started out, first of all, let me say on the state of fabric choices for the trade, it is really ridiculous. Mattresses right now, in mattresses and bed linens, you can find really great, safe mattresses and bed linens. A large part of that is due to the fact that about 12 years ago, the nations of India and Pakistan made a commitment to GOTS, the Global Organic Textile Standard, and they produce the majority of bed linens in the world. So they kind of, that was part of the reason why that's the case. And that was a very big deal because it's more expensive to have water treatment at every stage of production. I guess they didn't want to pollute their countries, continually. But it's not easy to find it in other places. And I'm just stunned by that. When Leanne and I first started selling, and we first started selling in 2007, so we're talking almost 20 years ago, and GOTS wasn't even published in 2008. We sold the first GOTS certified fabric in the U.S. And we thought that we had 2 or 3 years to make our name before everybody was selling safe fabric. That's how profound we thought and still think the issues are. And now, 19 years later, we're still one of the few. I just don't get it. But you asked about carbon footprint.
But that's okay. We can talk. I want to talk about the certifications too. So can you tell us, what is GOTS? What is it? What does it certify? How is it different from OEKO-TEX?
Yeah, the Global Organic Textile Standard, it is the most thorough, the most comprehensive of fabric standards. It looks at pretty much all issues from field to finished fabric. So not just the chemicals that remain in the fabric, but how they got in the fabric. There are requirements at every step along the way. There are also worker safeguards and it's not important that's not important in the USA or in Europe because there are other worker standards. But for people who have visited mills in other countries, it's still the 19th century in a lot of mills. So it's very important to have worker safeguards. Now, GOTS is an organic standard. There is such a thing as GOTS 100. You can have up to 30% non-certified and even non-certified, third-party certified organic fibers in a GOTS fabric. But you have to tell people that. It's called GOTS 70. And also you can have up to 5% plastic fiber in GOTS fabric, but you're supposed to tell people that too. And that's because, GOTS is really focused on apparel. And in apparel, you can actually have stretch through a weave, but that's much more expensive. Most producers achieve stretch through using Lycra or something like that. So anyway, GOTS allows that. But it's still, our fabrics are 100% natural, except for one. But anyway, but there's, but GOTS is hard to find. And there's not one GOTS certified mill in the US, unfortunately.
So this is interesting as well, because you and I had a conversation a while back, and I was asking you about this because I think I was asking where the fabrics were manufactured, and then you're in Seattle and I'm in Montreal. So in terms of carbon footprint, the fabrics are coming from overseas, they're going to Seattle, and then they're coming back to Montreal. So for me, I was looking at the carbon footprint, and you mentioned something about the GOTS certification. So if you're, and you'll explain this better than I can, but the carbon footprint of a GOTS certified fabric is much, much, much lower than any other regular fabric. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And Leanne did extensive research in this. Just think of the underlying concept. I mean, most fabrics sold in the US are 100% or largely plastic. Well, plastic is solid petroleum. So the embodied energy, because carbon footprint for fabric is, you study it by figuring out what the energy is required to produce this final product. So the embodied energy in the plastic is just off the charts. So, and GOTS requires not just natural fibers, but third-party certified organic fibers. And the big advantage there is that most fertilizers used outside of GOTS are carbon-based. They're oil, or they're mined, or they're heavily carbon-based. So just those two things, we were feeling badly about having to produce GOTS-certified fabrics offshore. Our major mills are in Brazil and Belgium and France, but also there's one in India. But those GOTS-certified fabrics from India, even brought to Seattle using bunker oil, are by far a better carbon footprint choice than any USA produced fabric right now. Although there is some organic fiber cotton that's produced in the US. It's not GOTS, so it's probably still full of conventional chemicals you want to avoid. But anyway, that's just a nit. right now, GOTS is the better choice. And, the more demand there is for GOTS, the American mills will go GOTS. I've been begging American mills for 20 years to go GOTS. In fact, when Leanne and I first got the idea for the company, we knew we weren't going to raise enough money to become a spinner or a mill. So we had to find production partners. So I personally called every spinner and mill in the USA. They could not have been less interested in becoming
Wow.
our partners to green the process.
Wow.
And they pretty much remain not oriented that way.
Mm.
So we went offshore and we found mostly medium-sized, family-owned mills that really were interested, that shared our value system. And hopefully if, you know, designers, you guys keep asking for truly safe textiles, they'll see the demand
Mm-hmm.
and they'll do something about it. 'Cause it is expensive for a wet processor to get GOTS certified. It's very expensive.
Okay. But I feel like even in terms of price point, so if we're looking at, um, the pricing of your fabrics versus, I don't know, a designer fabric in polyester, whatever, your prices aren't high. It's not it's not like, oh, it's got certified, it's going to be so much more expensive, or oh, it's organic, or oh, it's this, they're not more expensive, you know? And I think we just need to, I don't know, look at all of the different elements and I think again, I think it's about education, I think it's about knowledge, and I think we need to keep asking, like you said, and the more that we ask, the more that hopefully suppliers will change what they do. I had somebody cold call me the other day from a rug and
Huh?
curtain place. And he says, "Oh yeah, I saw you were an interior designer. I'd love to show you around the showroom, blah blah blah." I said, "Okay, well, I do sustainable design, so this is what I'm looking for." And I told him, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, oh, we have some of that here." And I was like, "Meh." So, but I think it's a lot about, education. So,
Yeah, and that's great, just planting the seed, it takes a
mm,
long time. It takes a long time. We we've always been focused on production, and we're terrible marketers, but, our sales have gone up. I mean, we're still embarrassingly small, but our sales have gone up just due to most people just find us, by Googling,
that's how I
and we
found
don't
you.
and yeah, and we don't even do it. We didn't do any SEO, search engine optimization, until about 3 months ago.
But your name
So
is EcoTextile, Two Sisters EcoTextiles. So I
uh,
think I probably Googled like eco-friendly
mhm,
textiles and you guys popped
mhm,
up and I was like, "Oh, hey, who are
mhm,
you? What do you do?" So,
yeah, and, so people are interested, and 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 it is an issue, um, and we really have done everything we can to moderate our prices. Because when we first started, um, I mean, our cost of production was like $40 a yard. That was our cost of production, and this was 20 years ago. There was only one GOT certified dye house in the whole world, that was in Italy, so we were, like, taking fabrics from France to Italy to get them dyed,
oh,
and
wow.
it was just crazy.
Wow.
But now, we don't have to do things like that, and, uh, it's, uh, uh, also we moderate our margins. Like, I pay 100 times more for fiber than anybody using plastic, at a minimum of 100 times. And, I think one of the reasons that American producers don't wanna switch is they just don't wanna give up those margins.
Mm,
I mean, those margins have gotta be spectacularly fat. And, the whole to the trade, um, supply chain, I really thought that would would disappear with the web, but it really hasn't. There's still no transparency about pricing, and the the showrooms, the distributors have really circled the wagons to try to
Mm.
secure their margins.
Unfortunately, it's a lot about making money and not about, yeah, it's about profit and not people or planet. So
Yeah.
then, what would you say if you could give an interior designer some advice when they are sourcing textiles, when they're looking for upholstery fabric, drapery fabric? What should they be asking their textile reps? Are there any specific questions? What do you recommend?
Well, I really think um, there's just so much unintentional and intentional misinformation in textiles that it's really a good idea to rely on certifications. I mean, there's only a few GOTS certified mills in the world that understand upholstery. So, s-
Mm,
I mean, most of our upholstery fabrics aren't GOTS certified. They're just OEKO-TEX 100 certified. Oh, and the difference is that OEKO-TEX 100 just looks at chemicals that remain in the fabric. An OEKO-TEX 100 certified fabric, its production could be and usually is just an eco disaster. There's no water treatment. There's no requirement that non toxic chemicals never be used in its production. It's not an organic standard. So if it's an OEKO-TEX 100 certified natural fiber fabric, you want to make sure that it doesn't contain pesticides, herbicides, and
mm.
fungicides. And we run tests on our fabrics for
So
that.
even with that certification, there could still be traces of pesticides in the fabrics.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, and you know the uh, the OEKO-TEX people. Okay, they have to be commercial. They have to survive. They have to get makers to pay them for the certification. And there have been two really major problems with OEKO-TEX 100. Well, three, besides the fact that there's no production requirements. The other two being, for the longest time, uh, Krypton was uh, a big client of OEKO-TEX, so they allowed
Mm.
forever chemicals until
Oh,
May of 2023,
wow.
despite howls of protest. So there's still OEKO-TEX 100 product out there that's got PFAS in it,
Mm.
probably disappearing now. But um, so you really want to trust your suppliers. But anyway, but that's gone. But the one remaining problem with OEKO-TEX 100 is that it allows what they consider a de minimis level, an insignificant level of pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides. Well, we think that's horrible. Why do we think that's horrible? Well, in 2004, the first 82 countries of the world got together. It's now 182. I
Okay.
might be off by a country or two, but it's about 180 countries now have signed the Stockholm Convention. The Stockholm Convention is the agreement by the world to stop making and using the worst of the worst human-made chemicals. Not in 2004, 9 of the first 12 they chose were pesticides. So they're nasty, nasty actors. And we think there is no de minimis level that's safe. So this is our one remaining problem with OEKO-TEX. Now OEKO-TEX has responded. They now have or are about to introduce an organic cotton standard. So you will be able to find OEKO-TEX 100 plus OEKO-TEX organic cotton standard. But they're still ignoring linen and hemp. There's this widespread belief that pesticides aren't used on linen and hemp. Not true, not true, not true. So it's important for those fibers to be organic too. Although it's really hard to find organic hemp. It's almost non-existent.
Okay, I want to go back to performance fabrics. If somebody walks into a furniture store and the salesperson is going to say, oh, do you have kids? Do you have pets? Because if you have kids and pets, then you need the performance fabric. But what you're saying about performance fabrics is that they're just chock full of chemicals, unhealthy chemicals, toxic chemicals. So if you have kids and pets, you don't want those performance fabrics, correct?
Yeah, I would say that's almost guaranteed to be true.
Okay. Are there ways to obtain a performance fabric in terms of durability by weaving? Like, is there a woven fabric that can be more performant without the chemicals?
Oh, no.
No. So it's all chemicals.
Wait a second. You rose two issues. There's durability.
Yep.
And then there's stain resistance.
Yes.
And those two are related because the number one reason people throw out pieces is they get stained.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But in durability, you can get natural fiber fabrics that are as durable as you need them to be. We have Martindale. We have some fabrics that are, let's see, 60,000, 80,000, 90,000, 100,000 Martindale. Now, Martindale is the abrasion test where they abrade the fabric in a figure eight.
Okay.
That's used mostly in Europe, and we use that because we think it's more reliable. Weizenbeek is used more frequently in the US, and that's just a straight line back and forth. And, designers are used to, we often get designers calling and asking for Weizenbeek of 200,000, which really is meaningless. 100,000, but that's a whole technical discussion, which the Association for Contract Textiles would be happy to have with you. They agreed with us. They are the trade association for sellers of fabric into commercial applications.
Okay.
And they have really good information on abrasion testing and fading and all sorts of. I mean, I think they're very good.
What did you say the name was?
It's called ACT, the Association for Contract Textiles.
Okay.
And yeah, they have really good information, not on sustainability. Don't pay any attention to their sustainability. But everything else, they're very clear about testing and abrasion and seam slippage and things like that. Now, it's also true, nylon. Nobody's going to beat nylon for durability testing. But, nylon is the worst carbon footprint fiber that's normally used. It's pretty much the worst commonly used plastic in terms of carbon footprint. And all the performance attributes that you're looking for are because of added chemicals, which do migrate out of the fabric, especially the stain resistance, the fading, the anti-wrinkling. All those are conveyed by classes of chemicals that are just it's just hair-raising
Mm,
how toxic they are.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
what about blackout fabric? Because I have
yeah.
a very hard time. You can find beautiful curtain fabric, that is GOTS certified, but the blackout fabric I feel like 99% of the places I look, the blackout fabric is polyester,
Mhm.
contains phthalates, all the bad things. And so, what do you guys offer as? Do you have an alternative? Do you have a solution for a blackout fabric that is not polyester?
Um, well, we do if you want, and we work with a lot of people, uh, to achieve this. If you wanna if you want a 100% natural fiber, and not only natural fiber, but got certified solution, you have to achieve blackout the old way, which is multiple layers.
Mm,
And you do have to have a black or a dark layer. There's just no other way except using acrylic foam, which we won't use, uh, to capture the UV rays. And that gets very expensive. I mean, if
mhm.
people wanna go that route, we dramatically discount the additional layers they have to add to the curtain to achieve blackout. Um, and actually, we're about a year away from having well, it's gonna be cellulosic, but it's going to be, um there's a new standard that does cover cellulosics, and it's, being produced by the GOTS people. It's called the Global Responsible Textile Standard.
Mm.
It's taken them decades to, create and publish a standard that covers cellulosics because it's pretty complicated. But it's about to come out. I think it's a year away.
So, what would you say is the future of sustainable textiles? Are there any innovations in textile production that you're excited about? I guess this blackout cellulose blackout fabric, that might be one of them.
You know, there have not been a lot of really major developments in textile production, except uh, I'm actually very excited about this global responsible textile standard. I think that'll be really great. And there are a lot of companies who are claiming they're making bio-based plastics, and you have to be really careful about those
Mm,
because, boy, do those have to be certified, and they have to be certified by a certification that covers every step in the chain. Because you know, a lot of customers be talking to me and say, "Well, really the only thing I care about is the chemicals that remain in the fabric that I bring into my home." And I I you know, I think that's fine, except you have to remember that the chemicals used to produce that fabric that were washed into the ocean or that are now in the ground or in the air are they're affecting marine life, they're affecting the climate, they're affecting us too.
mhm,
So I think it's uh there's some things there's carbon dioxide base dyeing, which sounds horrible, carbon dioxide, but it's a way to minimize the use of water and other chemicals in dyeing. There's lots of experiments at the margin, but I think the most progress will be achieved by designers who educate people, by the public who ask for solutions to problems.
mm,
You know, th that's where we're gonna make the biggest advance, I think.
mm. I agree. So, if designers could change one thing tomorrow, about how they specify textiles, what should it be?
Oh, I would get rid of plastic.
Yeah, me too. I'm with you on that one. I'm trying. Thank you so much, Patty, for sharing all of your knowledge and all of your research with us. It is so very much appreciated. Before we go, if our listeners are interested in checking out your fabrics or connecting with you, where can they find you?
Oh, thanks. Yeah, we're Two Sisters EcoTextiles. Best way is, I guess, through the website. The website has a phone number you can call, or you can send me a message. There's only two of us. I see everything. And it's TWO Sisters with an S, EcoTextiles with an S.com. And yeah, I'd love to chat with you. And
Perfect. And I just want to say too that Patty is also very knowledgeable. I mean, obviously she's very knowledgeable in her textiles, but if you have questions, if you're like, "Oh, how do I do this?" or "What should I source for this?" she's always there to help. She's helped me many times. So, thank you, Patty. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great
thank
day.
you for your interest.
All right.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love for you to follow the podcast, share this episode with another designer so we can make an even bigger impact, and leave a review so more designers can find this podcast and we can continue to grow this community. Also, I challenge you to take one sustainable practice from this episode and incorporate it in your business or your next project. And I want to know what it is. Send me a DM over on Instagram at designwithimpact_. I would love to hear from you. Thank you for being here.